Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. If you're listening to this recording of episode 22 of Tuesday Talks and Tips. And in case you were looking at the date and confused by the fact that it said November 16, that's probably one of my big fat fingers. I was typing over and probably hit the number 1 instead of the number 2. That's why it says 16. But if you look at your calendar, November 16 is not a Tuesday. It's a Saturday. So it is supposed to be today, November 26. And today's session is unusual in the sense that we don't have a presenter. We don't have a panel discussion in the sense of a panel. We just have people. We just have Toastmasters coming in to give testimonials of what they like about Pathways, or to thank people who have helped them in Pathways or helped their club in Pathways. So it's really very informal. And if you're wondering, okay, so I want to thank someone, how long can I speak? Well, just like the Oscars, they like you to speak briefly, but just like the Oscars, sometimes people go and then. So I guess try to say what you want to say within a table topics type of length. That would be maximum of 2 minutes, maybe with a 30-second allowance. But let's keep it like that initially, and then we could have a second round, or we could have conversations about why did you like that, or what was it about that aspect that you're so grateful for. Okay, so let's start. And I want to give my good friend from British Columbia first pass, just because he has rarely ever come here. And I think the next one I would like to hear from is Siba, because he's tried many times and he couldn't get in until now. So let's start with you, Brian. Tell us, what are you happy about? What are you grateful about? Who do you want to thank? Or what's your favorite thing about Pathways? Take it away.
First of all, I'd like to thank Pat Johnson. It was when she was international president of Toastmasters that they decided to look at the education program, and rather than patch it up, they were going to go to ground level and start off again, which they did at the board level first, before they handed out to the next people, the educators, whatever they were called. I got into Pathway. Well, I was following what Pat was saying. Even like she announced quite a bit about it at the Malaysia conference, and there was write-ups in the magazine about it. And it was, in the beginning, it was the revised education program, and then they named it Pathways. Well, I wanted in right away. I didn't realize, it didn't trig on me that I could join one of the clubs right away in January, when it was in two pilot districts. But I put on the, I think it was the Facebook. Does anybody belong to an online or a hybrid club where I can join? And I got one answer from Washington, D.C., and I joined right away the following on the 1st of the month, 1st of April, 2 years ago. And what happened was Julie, another friend of Michelle and I's, she joined, she went in there and joined as of the right away. So she was in Pathways 1 month before I was. I think it is a great modern type of program. And as soon as some of the, let's say,
kinks,
traditional Toastmasters realized that, wow, this is an exciting learning tool. And to me, I'm trying to market to my customers, which are the children of the world, up to whatever age you want to be as a child, namely millennials and I generation and the new alpha generation. That's who we should be marketing this whole Pathways program to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brian. I knew that I could just throw a ball, any kind of ball at Brian, and he would just pick it up. Now, I had said earlier that next up, I would like to hear from Siva, but then I realized, hey, no, I'm not being fair. Maybe I should just open the door and say, hey, who wants to unmute next and come on screen? So if Siva, if it's you, then unmute yourself or somebody else. Who wants to speak up next? Okay, well, we'll give it a few seconds for people to decide if they want to. Maybe I'll just very quickly share my own. And I have so many things to be grateful for and so many people. But because Brian is here and he mentioned Julie, then my memory just got refreshed. And one of the people, perhaps the most important person who helped me to get into Pathways was Julie, actually. And then, of course, Brian, because they're my club mates, co-officers, co-club mates in various online clubs, and they would be busy talking and talking about Pathways. There was one time, I think, Brian, you guys were on after we ended our club meeting. I think you were still there 3 hours after the meeting. They were still discussing Pathways. I remember because I needed to jump on for another online meeting and they were still there. They were talking about Pathways, different things about Pathways. So that intrigued me. You know, when you see people so passionate that they're staying up for hours talking about Pathways, I started thinking, this is something that I could get on as well earlier ahead of my district. And because I was expected to speak during our district training or district conference about Pathways, and I had never been in base camp, then I asked them and they said, oh, there's this club. And so I went in, and just like Brian, within 24 hours, I was a member and I had access to Pathways. So that really started the journey for me. I am very grateful. And then I actually, some of you may have heard this, I plateaued. After I had started on Pathways, I was so busy helping others and getting this Pathways discussion forum started, among other things, that I didn't do any projects myself. I just did my icebreaker and that's it. And then here comes Julie again saying, no, you need to go on. You need to do your own projects. And she can be a nag. Hey, Julie, if you're listening to this, she can be a nag, right, Brian? So why not? Why not? So I finally did. And then it started the ball again. And I went on. And in fact, I have now earned not just one DTM, but 2 DTMs in Pathways. So I'm really grateful to Julie for having started that once. And then when I kind of stopped, she prodded me again. I'm so grateful. Julie, hats off to you. Okay, so who's next? Who wants to unmute herself or himself? And Brian's just saying he was right one time because he said no. Okay. Who's next? Oh, Dennis, go ahead. Take it away.
Okay, I guess I need someone to nag me too, because I'm trying to help my members get going. I'm a member of 3 brick and mortar clubs, and we're all 3 clubs are still kind of struggling and trying to get started with Pathways. But one of the things that I do like about it is now that it's been integrated in, my clubs use Free Toast Host for our agendas, and Free Toast Host has now integrated the evaluation forms into that software, so that if you do indicate which path you're on, which project you're working on, it will automatically find the evaluation form for you, so that you don't have to go in and into Basecamp or into Pathways and look for the evaluation guide. So I really like that part of it. But also Pathways has a lot of tutorials if we will spend the time and look at them. And I think that's very good too, because when we had our regular books, we would just kind of flip through the pages and go do our project. But now if we do really take the time to look at all the tutorials that are available to us and really follow the program in Pathways, I think it will make us become better speakers, because we've been taking a lot of shortcuts and we really need to spend a little more time with it. And Pathways is doing that for us if we will take advantage of it. So that's the part I like about Pathways.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you for mentioning the fact that there are so many tools now. I guess it's like once people start getting the idea of how to make the most of Pathways, then it just keeps on getting better and better. And I love how Free Toast Host, like you said, I actually don't go into Basecamp anymore sometimes, because if I just need an evaluation form, I don't need to go into Basecamp. It's several more clicks and it takes a bit longer to go into Basecamp. It's much faster just to go into Free Toast Host, click a project, and then you get the corresponding evaluation form. That's great. Let's hear from Siva. I know I kind of teased you and said you'll be next, and then I took it away. So are you ready? Would you like to say something about someone or something about Pathways? And please unmute yourself. Do you know how to unmute yourself? Do you want me to do it for you? There. Oh, I think we're toggling. There. Okay. Yes. There you are. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Hello.
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. Good. I'm from Singapore. You can call me Siva, in short for Siva Nathan. I'm in Toastmasters since 2017, when Pathways was launched. And I went straight into Pathways, and I have completed 2 paths as of now. Plus, I've also done the Pathways Mentoring Program. And I find all these 3 paths or programs that I've chosen to be very complementary to each other. By profession, I'm a management consultant. And in my work, I do a lot of coaching and mentoring. And I found Pathways effective coaching program, as well as the motivational strategies, to be very, very helpful in my profession. It has enhanced my core skills in my job, as well as in my private life. I'm a life coach. So I find these 2 programs very useful for anyone who wants to do coaching and mentoring. It really adds a lot of value to what you're already practicing. And it brings a lot of synergy to your job and to help people to learn from you the way they should be learning. Because most of the people out there, when they talk about coaching or mentoring, actually, they are not really practicing the right approach. Instead, they tell people what to do and how to do. Coaching and mentoring is completely different. And I learned quite a bit from the Pathways program, what the definition of coaching and mentoring is all about. And also, a lot of people use the word mentee and coachee, which is not really quite right in the English language. It is to be known as protege. Protege is the right word for anyone who is being coached or mentoring. And I find this revelation to be quite effective, because coaching and mentoring often overlaps, but knowing which is which, you know when to apply whichever method that is right for the occasion. And you get better impact as well as understanding by people what you're trying to impart to them. So I feel Pathways has helped me a lot, and I like to encourage as many people to sign on to take up this program. Do I still have time?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. And we can do a second round, but thank you so much, Siba. And I really love the fact that you mentioned how the Pathways Mentoring Program has helped you even with your level of experience. In fact, that's the same. I found that very helpful for myself. I'm also a consultant, and I borrowed some of the materials when I'm speaking with my clients. I use the concepts, I use the approach. I also find very helpful the forms for the Pathways Mentor Program, because instead of talking back and forth with a protege, I can just tell them, okay, you can access the forms, or here are the forms, answer this, and then send it to me. And that also helps me to see who is really serious. If the protege does not fill out the form, doesn't return it to me, then maybe they're not willing to do the work for their own development. And then we have all the goals and the timelines. It's really very helpful. That's one of the many things I'm grateful for. Now I'd like to hear from Mary. You have been so consistent with coming to the Tuesday Talks and Tips. Tell us now what you're thankful for with Pathways, or um, anything that you want to be to be sharing today as a testimonial for Pathways.
Okay. I found it kind of gave me some new life in Toastmasters. I've been in Toastmasters for a long, long time, like over 35 years. And it's something different. It's not doing the manuals. I probably did the basic manual maybe about 20 times during that period. So it's new life for me to see different things, and I found it hard to catch on to. So I ended up ordering a printed version, and after I got that printed, I start seeing a lot better what the things were, what they're trying to do. I couldn't quite visualize it. Now I signed up with some online ones I got presentation mastery printed and innovative planning online, and humor, engaging humor online. So it's gotten me the thing about the humor. I didn't think I was really a bombastic type humorous speaker, but I felt like I had kind of a dry type humor, like a low key, and I hope to maybe develop that and put some humor in my speeches and my everyday life too.
Thank you, Mary. And actually, many of the really effective comedians or humorists have that approach, like what you said. They're not bombastic. They are actually they sometimes look deadpan. You don't even know if they were making a joke or not, but then the humor becomes even more powerful. So thank you for sharing that, Mary. And I guess we could do another round, because I'm sure there's more that we can share. And in fact, while you're thinking of your next round, I want to say a thank you. This might sound a little bit in reverse, but I want to thank the people on the Pathways Discussion Forum. You probably know I was the one who started that forum, but it has taken a life of its own. It it is so much bigger. I just don't mean in terms of size, which it is. It's 10,600 something, but I don't mean only the size. I mean in terms of its helpfulness to people around the world. I constantly hear people saying, "Oh, we found out in the Pathways Discussion Forum," and I'm thinking, "Oh yeah, you did." And Sunday, I was meeting with someone at McDonald's. I was trying to walk him through, because he already supposedly knew Pathways. He had done, uh, supposedly, he had already done level 1, but then he suddenly couldn't move forward on his level 2. So I was showing him, and we opened up his computer, And I realized it was beyond, the problem was beyond me. I couldn't figure out. The assessment was not working. So what I did is I went on Facebook Live in the Pathways Discussion Forum, and I showed his screen, and I had several people answering. And one of the suggestions was, maybe you need to try another browser. So we did, because he was using Firefox. We did. We installed Chrome, and it was like, ta-da! It started to work. And I was just so amazed that even on a Sunday, there were people on the Pathways Discussion Forum so quick to respond. So those who responded, and not just that time, but all the time, 24/7, you have people responding. So I'm so grateful to all of you. I can't name everybody on the Pathways Discussion Forum who provides answers, support, and just tips and information, but I am so grateful. You are making the Pathways Forum much, much more helpful than I ever dreamed. So, okay, let's now do another round. Who would like to come on and unmute next? Okay, Brian, go right ahead. Brian, you got to unmute yourself. You're the Zoom master.
I'll follow up a little bit on what Michelle was talking about. So I got into it on April the 1st when I got access to it. And I was struggling with the, I was using Firefox, by the way, and I was struggling with it. And because I've been 50 years in the computer field and for software, I got on the phone and phoned Toastmasters International because of the problems I was having. I couldn't get past even the icebreaker, and I couldn't get past that. But the reason was, and I learned this from Judy, and Judy had learned it from another Canadian, believe it or not. And Judy said to me at one meeting, "You got to sit down for a minute. I have something to tell you." And so she proceeds to tell me. My problem was that I wasn't expanding the pop-up screen to see a right arrow on there to go to the next thing. And it wasn't obvious. I mean, you know, from my point of view, I was just telling a bank today how a couple of little tweaks on their website would make it so much easier for the user. By the way, I tell Toastmasters International that. And once I got through that, once that the door was open, if you want to call it that, I mean, then I was totally hooked on it and could get through. But those are how people helped, and one of the people who helped Julie was in the same club we were in Washington, and you know, we helped each other. That was even before the Pathways Forum, because I got an invitation from Michelle, I think the same day she started.
Yeah, the Pathways Forum didn't start until October 20, 2017. And that was because some of us were chatting on Facebook. And I think Svetlana said, "Is there a Facebook group that focuses on pathways?" And I quickly checked. I didn't see any. So I created one and then posted the link and then said, "Here, now there's one." And that was October 20. But it's amazing, isn't it? Dennis, you're smiling. I'd like to hear from you something else that you're grateful for related to pathways.
I want to tag on to what both you and Brian were talking about. I was trying to help one of my members of my club get on pathways too, and I experienced both same problems. He had the right browser, but he didn't have the screen big enough. And until we popped the screen wider, he couldn't get to the arrows or the boxes to be able to switch. So I think that we need to spend more time with other members of our group online firsthand with them, to share our experience with them and to see what they're experiencing, because sometimes when they try to explain things to us, until you actually see it and experience it firsthand, you don't know what they're really trying to do, and you're giving them, you think you're giving them help, but unless you really see what they're trying to do, you really can't give them the proper instructions to get them through. So I think that this Pathways is something that's will maybe help us work closer together with each other, because you really do have to see firsthand what they're doing. And I think this is something that we need to tell other members of clubs to spend more time for online firsthand with members to give them the help that they really need.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point, Dennis. And it suddenly crossed my mind. I wonder if McDonald's or Starbucks has suddenly had a little bit of a bump in business because of members, Toastmasters meeting up. Uh, it's McDonald's and Starbucks that are reliable internet, at least in my area.
Yeah,
And
I think that I think Zoom lets us actually take control of members' computers too. So we might be able to work all this out directly on Zoom.
yeah, that's true. The one advantage I realized, and on Sunday actually had two back-to-back kind of, hands-on sitting beside or sitting across a person. The first one, he had never even logged in, not just to Pathways, but he had never logged into Toastmasters International. So I kind of prepared myself to be really patient and not to go too fast, go really slow. This person was like who was it who said, I think Siba said he has a lot of experience. Well, this person I was coaching had a lot of real life experience, but not very much at all with computers, and zero with Pathways. So what I was observing, and this was so important, was the body language. And I think that's where it's really helpful initially, at least, to meet in person if you can, because then you can kind of see how it's going, how the other person is reacting, the shoulders, the frustration. And you can, I mean, actually at one point I patted the member's shoulder and said, it's okay, we all go through that. Actually, even after I taught the login and all that, there seems to be another issue with his browser. So I think next Sunday we'll have part 2 of the one-on-one. Lots of coffee. Let's hear from somebody else, because hey, I have so many things to be thankful for. I could go on and on. And as I was telling Lori, who couldn't make it, by the way, I was telling her, Lori, if you don't show up, I might end up talking to myself. Well, there's others here, but still, I would like somebody else to take the round now. Otherwise, I'll just keep on sharing all the cool things that I've gained through Pathways, friendships, and all that. Mary, were you ready to unmute yourself?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I'm thankful for Pathways has made me humble. I thought I was fairly good at computers, and I found out that there's a lot to learn, and I had to learn getting on the Zoom. I never did this, or unmuting yourself, or doing some of the other things, the gallery view and the person in the way you could talk to just see the person that's talking. It's a lot. It's a lot of little stuff to learn and Pathways. And I think to sign in initially, if they have their magazine, don't you get a username and use that magazine number, club number for their initial sign in?
Actually, Mary, you took the words out of my mouth. I didn't go into the details, but he was like, so I asked him, do you have any idea what your ID is? And, it was like deer in the headlight, like ID. I said, don't worry. Do you receive your Toastmaster magazine? And he said, sure. So he got a copy, and I said, see? And I showed him above his name, that is your member ID. And his eyes lit up. I mean, and a lot of people, I realize, don't know that your member ID is the number right above your name. So look at your Toastmaster magazine, the number right above your name. That's your member ID, in case you forget. Thank you for reminding me, Mary.
Okay.
Before I add another thing, because somebody might say, you know what, she just wanted to talk for an hour about what she was grateful for with Pathways. Yeah, I do, but no. So let's
I
hear from
don't,
somebody else.
my member name doesn't show up on my magazines because they put them in another package, and it comes to me 6 of them. I think I'm getting right now.
I thought they stopped that about 4 months ago. So
Um,
maybe, do you have your November issue already, or your December, not December, November? Have you received your November issue? Because I think they stopped doing that. Well, at least I don't get that anymore. Now I have them separate. But for a while there, you're right, they came in one big plastic bag, and it didn't have the address, but the address was on the plastic bag. So if you
oh yeah. Well, I know it was there. I knew it was there before, but I
right.
never remember. I never remember my number because when I changed my sign in to a name that I could remember, and I sign in with a name, not a number.
Right. And then, of course, one of the things I'm grateful for with at least the Toastmasters website, it allows you, because there are some websites that don't, it kicks you out regardless. But with the Toastmasters website, I can just save the password, and the next time it's always there. But hey, well, when you allow Brian and me to start talking, then we can quickly go down a rabbit hole. And I see we're starting to do that. So getting back directly on Pathways, I think, Siva, you've unmuted yourself. So what's the next thing that you want to be telling us about with Pathways? What are you grateful for, or what's your testimonial? Go right ahead.
Yes, I find that the Pathway program has got plenty of resources that is so much information stored in there, and we do not have much time to really go in and discover all that is needed for us to optimize the program that we have signed up for. One of the main thing I find most of my members have difficulty in, especially those who just joined us, is on the selection of the particular path that will be useful to them. I find if we can have, I don't know whether it's available anywhere. I know there is a lot of overviews of the path in the program, but I find that the information is very brief, and it doesn't really give the member the right information to retrieve and apply to what they want to learn. Because most of it just talks about leadership. Almost every program has got leadership. But if only the core values of each path can be clearly stated, then they know this is what I want. For me, it was easy because I was already in the coaching and mentoring profession. So I straight dived into the effective coaching and motivational strategies path, and which I'm glad I chose them because it really helped me a lot. So for new members who are beginning in their careers, and they have their aspirations to become something, if they can have a clearer view of each path, it'll be easier for them to select. Otherwise, you will find that, I don't know whether other regions or other districts have same problem. I find that most of them straight away look for leadership. And as a result, you find most of the people who sign in are all doing either dynamic leadership or presentation mastery. They don't realize the values in the other paths because they don't have much accessibility to the information, and they don't have any experience in those areas. It's such a waste, because I find that motivational strategies is so good that it helps you to become a better leader. So learning about leadership and not knowing how to be a better leader is a waste, actually. They could perhaps take it as a second path to enhance their leadership values. So this is what I feel we can improve by having more clearly written overviews of each path. It will
Thank
help
you.
members a lot.
Thank you, Siva. And as you were talking, I grabbed the YouTube link. I placed it on the chat. If you're not familiar how to look at the chat, just see below. You will see like a conversation
Yeah.
balloon, and click on that and you will see I posted how to pick a path. That was episode, I believe that was probably episode 3 maybe, or episode 6. But George Marshall, who's the Chief Pathways Guide of District 57, that was the first district that piloted pathways, he came up with this presentation where he grouped all the paths depending or based on how much leadership involvement was required. So he had no leadership involvement, which was presentation mastery and engaging humor. And then he had a little bit, and he had moderate, and then he had a lot of leadership, such as the effective coaching, the innovative planning, and the persuasive influence. And it's a very interesting presentation. He uses the analogy of different flavors of ice cream. So check that out. Check out that YouTube, and you can feel free to share it with the members in your district or in your clubs in your area. I do agree that at the start, there was just so much information in pathways, and it was not, it could have been disseminated better. I am grateful for the fact that World Headquarters has listened, because there have been so many changes based on feedback from members. So it shows that they have been listening. Now, obviously, they could not do everything based on what everybody wanted, because sometimes what this person wanted was the opposite of what the other person wanted. But I think they've done a great job of striving to address the most common issues. Like, for example, in case you're not aware, and I know there's still people who are not aware, you can now look ahead with your projects. You can go from level 1 to level 5. You can take a look at the projects, and guess what? Not only look at your projects, but actually work on your projects. So in other words, you can work on your projects out of order. I'm just saying that in terms of out of sequence. You can work on a level 5 project, and then while you're working on it, some of the level 5 projects take a long time. Then you can actually go back and do a level 3 project, and so on. And I know that some people find that not something to be grateful for. They're annoyed about it because now they get confused how to track their members. But hey, I think the majority are happy with that. I personally am very grateful for that.
But I think most VPs have this problem because it is another extra effort to keep track of each and every member to see what they have not completed, what they have completed. So when it comes to approval, you keep wondering, has this guy finished this level before he went to the other level? And that is really an issue, because not to the users, but for the VPEs who are monitoring and tracking. Unless,
Go ahead.
unless there's somewhere we can go and take a look and it shows a summary, this guy has missed this, has not completed that, then it'll be easy for us. Until then, it's a problem.
Brian, I think, had his hand read up really quickly. Brian, take it away. You got to unmute yourself, Brian. You get so excited about sharing, you forget to unmute.
I was lost myself in what projects I'd completed or anything like that. And then now I actually have started on a 5th path, but I haven't even bought the path yet. What I discovered was, as a base camp manager, I found a way to track exactly what the members are doing. And you go into the base camp manager, you go in as a base camp manager, and then you have to do it at each level. You click on there to see how the members are doing in that particular project. And then it gives you a report at the bottom of it. You grab that page as an Excel spreadsheet or whatever spreadsheet you're using, and then you can just take that information and add each new piece as you go along, and you've got a database showing what each member is doing without having to go to a lot of work. And as Mary says, now you can sit back and look at, say, oh, here's Michelle. She's done 3 paths in this particular, 3 projects in this particular path. And oh, that one is pending. She's working on it. And really, I use that for myself because I've been using a spreadsheet. I have all my speeches from day 1, which is 14 years ago. And you can use that spreadsheet very easily to track what each member in your club is doing.
Brian, before I comment on that, Siva, did you want to respond to that?
No, I'm just trying to understand what Brian is trying to tell. I mean, he seems to have an answer there, but it'll be good if it can be posted so I can refer to it, or people like me can refer to it to see how we can monitor and track members doing the path which they have completed, which they have not completed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Talk around a little bit about it, and I'll set up an instant demonstration for you. So let me get in there first.
Yeah, the one thing though, and I hate to be the devil's advocate, but in this case I have to, that only works if the member clicks and then continues. Because otherwise, and I am just referring to a recent discussion that I saw on the Pathways Discussion Forum, if the member clicks and clicks and clicks and clicks and clicks, what happens is if you try and download that member's record, you will have a gazillion projects that says in progress, in progress, in progress, in progress. But actually the member was just clicking, just, you know, he got excited. He wanted to see all the projects because starting 2 months ago, well, September 11 to be precise, we could look ahead. But the challenge is that when you click on a project, that triggers into that report that Brian mentioned. So now the report will say in progress. So if the member clicked through all the electives and all the projects in all the levels of his path, then everything will be in progress, in progress, in progress. I just wanted to say that so that Siva and anyone listening doesn't get so grateful and excited and then they do it and then they realize, what? Yeah. I hate to be the devil's advocate, sorry.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a good point you're making. But what I've got is really a simple solution that Toastmasters should be implementing. And I talked to the head of the IT department. And of course, that's something they are looking at. And I hear now they're going to integrate the Pathways program with, you know, where you sign it, where you apply for an award, and those two will tie together. So,
whoa. Brian, I will have to put a disclaimer there. You said you hear that they're going to integrate, but there was no timeline. So anyone who's listening to this video later on, please note that that is an aspiration, or at least something in the future on the horizon, but there's no timeline for that, okay? So don't start looking for that because I don't think that's going to happen.
I heard that from the World Headquarters employees. So.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I would not expect that to happen
Oh, no,
in
no,
the
but
next few months.
eventually when it does happen, that old program that listed all your speeches that you had and whatever award you were going for, they will integrate. And there is where they can save that information.
Whoa, that would be that you know, that would be something to be very, very impressed with. I am an optimist. I say right now, I don't expect to see that in the next couple of years. But hey, I would like to be wrong. I would love to be wrong.
Well, if they would let me sit down with their coding people, I can show them in about a 1 hour
Okay.
presentation.
That's one thing that I am privately grateful for. I know that my Santa Claus up there in the North Pole has over 35 years of programming and coding experience, and I'm understating it. I know he's probably going to object that it's more than that. I'm grateful for that, Brian. Moving on now to Mary. Mary, is there anything else? We are now incredibly down to our last 10 minutes. I can never believe how time just zooms so quickly. Yes, Mary.
Not really. It's just things about the protege and coaching and mentoring. I caught on that, and I thought that mentoring and protege is the guy who gets mentored, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, because it's supposed to be a speech that have to work on that. You're going to have to tell about a time you were a protege and somebody mentored you. So I was trying to figure out if anybody ever did that for me, but
Your
that,
parents, your teacher, your
oh,
relative. Because see, that's the other thing I'm grateful for. Toastmasters is giving names and terms, as Siba mentioned. We now have this labels in a positive sense. We now have this terms to use for things that we were doing anyway. Mary, you're not alone. A lot of people say, but I never had a mentor. And then we say, nobody ever helped you to understand things, to make decisions, to deal with life's challenges? And they go, yeah, of course. So you had a mentor. Who was that? And say, my mom, my dad, my teacher, my boss. Okay, those were your mentors. They just didn't say mentor. They didn't have a big sign, but they were your mentors. And I love that aha moment when you see the eyes go and they go, oh, yeah, and now they want to talk about several mentors. And I go, okay, wait. Just one mentor maybe per speech or maybe. Yeah. But thank you, Mary, for bringing that up. What about Dennis? I just gauge when I see Dennis smiling, I always think, aha, he has something there that he's connecting. Take it away, Dennis.
Okay, I was just following up on what Brian was talking about as far as showing where people are, and I found out. I looked. You have to be a Basecamp manager in order to do that. And once you log on as Basecamp manager, then you will see a box that says member progress. And once you select that, then you have to go and select options, and then you'll be able to create the report that you need. But you have to be a Basecamp manager to do that. One of the things you're talking about mentors and coaches and all that stuff. I watched Darren LaCroix, one of our world champion speakers. He's got a webinar that he does too, and he explained the difference between an evaluator and a coach. He said in our Toastmasters meetings, we all evaluate and we know how to tell people what we saw and what we thought about it. But he said the coach is the person that really tells you how to make it better. So our evaluations just tell us what we did, but the coach actually helps you get better. And so that's how the distinction between an evaluator and a coach.
I love that distinction. And as you were talking about that, Darren is he's a really good coach because he has talked at our district more than once. But there was one time where he did this live. There was no prior prep. He just asked people, volunteers, to come up on stage, and then he would ask them to speak for, I think, 2 to 3 minutes. And then he would coach them on what to do to make it better. And it was amazing. We were watching in real time how people were getting better with the coaching. So thank you, Dennis. And yes, I'm grateful for all the coaching and mentoring that I myself have received and I continue to receive. Because see, that's another misconception that people say, huh? You need a coach? You need a mentor? But you've been with Toastmasters for so long. No, we all need a coach. We can all use a coach. We can all use a mentor or plural mentors or coaches at whatever stage of life we may be. And I am grateful for the coaches and mentors that I've received, coaching and mentoring I've received in Pathways. Wow, it is now, we are left with only 5 or 6 more minutes to the end of the hour. We did start about 3 minutes late. So actually that is, we have 3 more minutes past the hour. Who has something else that they would like to share in terms of a testimonial? There might be somebody that you haven't mentioned yet whom you are grateful to. This is your chance. Mary has unmuted.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to get that mentor. Isn't that a more sustained thing than coaching? More kind of a one step up, or
that might be one way of looking at it, although there are certain coaching relationships that also go for a really long period of time. So it's not just that the coach just teaches you something for a short time and the mentor is there for a longer period, although that can often be a distinction. The other, though, is, as I think Dennis and Brian and Ziva mentioned, it's not just the length of time, but the process of engagement. What the coach does, what the mentor does, what the evaluator does, and what the judge does, of course, totally different. The approach of the mentor is more of helping the member or the person, the protege, to arrive at answers for themselves.
That's
Whereas the
correct.
coach, thank you, whereas the coach, you imagine what, the stock information that comes up when the question is when the coach is there. The coach is usually more active with showing how to do, whether it's a speech coach, a life coach, a gym coach, or a driving coach, whatever. There's more of an active showing how to do, whereas maybe the mentor is more of the why and helping the person, the protege, to get to the answers themselves. Okay. One quick final round maybe of who you're grateful to or what you're grateful for before we wrap up. And I think Siva had unmuted himself. So Siva, go ahead if you had one more thing that you wanted to mention.
Well, I think as far as Toastmasters is concerned, sincerely, I'm grateful for your tips that you're conducting regularly. There's a lot to learn there, and I really appreciated it. Although I couldn't get into it, I was watching all your recordings, and there are a lot of questions in my mind were answered through these forums that you're conducting. I like to definitely see you keeping it up, thinking. I know you'll be tough to think of what next to talk about, but I think you're very good at it. Keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And let me just grab the opportunity. I have not mentioned the people, the regulars who helped me to do this Tuesday Talks and Tips. Lori couldn't make it today. She had to do some errands and she had a club meeting. Trish is undergoing surgery or just recovering from surgery or is getting ready for surgery, somewhere thereabout. She still attended last week, but now I think she's right there in that process. Thank you, Trish. Thank you, George Marshall, for always coming in whenever you can. And I know he's got a very busy schedule. These are the three who have been really consistent with helping. There's also Carol McCulloch, who's helped with a few sessions. Chris Poole, who was with the first session. And now I'm getting really scared that I might forget someone. Tricia Renzi Grow. Oh gosh. This is the scary thing when you come up with a list and you might forget someone. I hope that I have mentioned, uh, Kajitan Barreto there. I think I've mentioned everyone who did sessions. And please, if you did a session or if you participated and I did not mention your name, I am so sorry. Roger Fung. See, I just remembered Roger Fung participated in a couple of sessions. So thank you to all of you who have helped to make Pathways Tuesday Talks and Tips so helpful. I cannot count the number of people who tell me that it is so helpful, that they have their aha moments when they listen to the recordings. So thank you so much. Now I'm suddenly forgetting your name. I know it's on the tip of my tongue. Siba, yes. Thank you so much, Siba, for helping me to remember that, to thank all of the presenters and panelists during the Tuesday Talks and Tips. Whew, there. And I hope that I have mentioned everybody. One more quick round. As I said, we have 3 more minutes left. So very quick, anyone else that you want to thank or anything that you want to be grateful for related to Pathways? Dennis, one last chance. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I really appreciate what you've done, Michelle. I've enjoyed looking at the Facebook forums about Pathways, and I've learned a lot just following those and watching the questions that people ask, and really picked up a lot on that. So I appreciate all that you've set up for us.
Thank you. And Brian, a quick one.
Well, I thank everybody that challenged me and said to me, you can't get that changed. And being somebody from inside, I kept knocking on doors until they introduced me to the head of the IT department of Toastmasters International. And we had quite an interesting talk about Pathways. So I'm grateful for everybody challenging me that I can't do it.
Thank you, Brian. And when you spoke, I remembered this other super special group. How could I not remember them? Wow. I want to thank the Pathways administrators and moderators. There is no way in heaven or any part of this universe that one single person, even a hyperactive, crazy person like me, could manage to moderate this humongous forum. But no, I don't need to. So I want to thank, and Brian, help me because you're one of them. So thanking Brian, who's one of the forum moderators and admins, and also Carol McCulloch, TJ Flynn, Margaret Wire, Michael Thompson, Julie Kurtesh, Heather Turner, and Brian. I'm panicking. Did I forget anyone? No, I don't. I think I covered.
You're better at names than I am.
Okay.
I'm a numbers person.
So they are numbers. Okay, so I believe that I have named all the members, and these are the current moderators team. We have had several changes in the past, and I would not even dare to start thanking everyone because we had several people early on, Cheryl Rausch, Mark Snow, and others. But then there were several who came in and then just got so busy, backed out. I won't dare to mention all of them, but the moderators, the admins are amazing. You cannot imagine how much work they put in, and they're just doing this tirelessly. And we get slammed, we get chastised by people. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. If we do this, it's like, why are the admins doing that? If we don't do that, why are they? But we are just grateful anyway that we have such an active forum and that everyone is generally following the rules and respectful. Generally, there are some people sometimes. But anyway, at this point, I believe that we have used up our hour. So I will thank everybody for participating. And Brian, just let me say this because I'm going to forget. Next week, Brian will be on as one of the panelists. The topic will be conducting speechcraft in Pathways. So if you're listening to this video after, delayed telecast, whatever, next week, mark it on your calendar, conducting speechcraft in Pathways. So Brian, just a very quick 30 seconds. You wanted to say something?
No, I was just going to lend you my golden gavel.
Oh, okay. Why don't you do that? Toink. I'm ending the recording. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.